Hello and welcome back to Hideaway Homestead, week 2 of the Pantry Challenge. Reminder of our Pantry Challenge, we're trying to eat only from food that we already have in our stores here. So those would include canned goods, dry goods, and frozen or refrigerated items that we have on hand. We gave ourselves a $20 a week budget for emergency food or treats, I guess we could call them. And then the rest of our food, 3 meals a day, is supposed to come from what we already have on hand. So I think we did pretty well this week. So here's what we spent our big $20 budget on this week at the grocery store. We purchased some bananas, some lettuce, some green grapes, some nuts, and some Cheetos. These items are special treats. They were not necessities. We do think that eating good nuts is a better treat food than if we buy other kinds of sweets or something like that. So we justified getting the packages of nuts because of that. We were so excited to find some cherry tomatoes growing in our gardens from last year, so that gave us some fresh produce in that way too. Lunches this week were sort of easy because unusually in Florida we are having cold spells, and so we had frozen cups of soup, homemade soup, and pulled those out of our freezer. I think we had done a video not too long back about making vegetable soup out of canned goods and then putting it in these muffin pans in the freezer. And so we were able to pull out the Ziploc bags, usually 3 little cups of or muffin size frozen soup portions in a mug is a nice size meal for us. So this week we were able to eat some of our veggie soup and some of the beef and barley soup, which we love. Got to make another batch of that up. And I think we had some turkey and rice soup this week too. So that gives you a good start on your lunch meals. And then we made some sandwiches this week. And one day I think we had hot dogs that we had already cooked and were in the freezer. So that made our lunches pretty easy. Oh, and today I really seriously considered going to Checkers and picking up their $5 hamburger meals, but we talked ourselves out of it, and we found hamburgers already frozen here, and we made a wonderful hamburger lunch on our own and didn't go out and spend, even if it's only $10, still we saved that $10 today. Supper time has been a good thing too. One day we made one of our favorite meals is beans and cornbread, Great Northern beans that we canned ourselves here at the house. And then I used Reed Drummond's Pioneer Woman's cornbread recipe in the cast iron skillet. And we just love eating that meal. So that was a cheap and easy meal, but it was good. We made chicken and rice one day this week. We had ham Alfredo one day this week. And we had some ham that we had purchased for the holidays and put that along with, it's actually fettuccine, I think, noodles. And then we had a jar of prepared Alfredo sauce. That made a really good meal. One night, Kevin cooked breakfast for supper, and that included bacon and eggs from our farm and zucchini bread that was in the freezer and fried potatoes. That's right. He fried up for us out of some baked potatoes that we had left over. Another meal that we really turned out to enjoy was pork with bacon. It was a bacon wrapped pork loin. And I think somewhere in there is the word brown sugar too. got the recipe off of Pinterest, and we've been waiting to make it for several years actually. My father did not like bacon, and so this has been sitting there for a long time, but now that he's not worried about eating bacon on this earth anymore, we were able to try that recipe, and it turned out it's going to be one of our favorites for sure. So we've been eating well. Tonight's supper was a very good meal with Parmesan chicken and green pea salad and butternut squash. And I'm rolling my eyes trying to think of the other item. We had some leftover broccoli from a couple days ago, so that made a very good, tasty meal too. And I've got some details about that meal. So one of the challenges with the Pantry challenge is coming up with bread products sometimes. And so I remembered back to a recipe that we used several years ago. We're sort of on a kick for this back then. It's a 5-minute master bread recipe. It makes like a sourdough. You can keep the dough in your fridge for a couple of weeks and then bake it up when you need it. So last week I took the time, only less than 5 minutes really, to mix up a batch of the dough, and this is what it looks like still after a week. I haven't touched it yet because our schedule just didn't allow for it. So I'm going to pull out a quarter of this today. Let's see if it will rise for me, and if so, then we will have this with our supper tonight, and that'll be a really good treat because, as we remember, it tastes very good, especially fresh out of the oven. So let's see if this will work for me now, and we will show you the results if it does.
Okay.
For this process, you pull off about a quarter of the dough and mix it up. It does show that it's been sort of rising like bread dough. Right now it's quite cool because it's been in the fridge for a week, and pliable though. So they suggest that you put it either on parchment paper or on cornmeal on a pizza. Oh my, I know the name of this. Pizza paddle. Pizza peel. And so that's what we have used in the past. So I'm going to let this sit here. 45 minutes is the minimum, I suppose, but we'll see how long we can let it sit here and rise and come to room temperature before we throw it into a very hot oven. The bread turned out quite good. It'll be better if I can use fresher yeast, but we enjoyed this with our supper tonight. We really enjoy this chicken parmesan dish. It's quite easy to make out of chicken breasts, and I make a mixture of sour cream and real Parmesan grated cheese, and just some spices, salt, that kind of thing, herbs, and it just tastes so wonderful. You can also make it with mayonnaise if you're out of sour cream, which makes it a good meal for our preps because we almost always have mayonnaise on hand along with the spices. So this is a good thing for our supper tonight. We had a bag of cooked butternut squash in our freezer. Probably, based on the date on the bag, this is probably butternut squash I bought at the store, but we enjoy this. I like it with butter and salt. Kevin likes to add brown sugar to his to make it taste even better. Another side dish that we enjoyed with our chicken meal tonight was green pea salad, and we usually use just a can of green peas and a couple of boiled eggs and some mayonnaise to make our pea salad. It makes a refreshing side dish out of the pantry because we usually have eggs from our chickens. One of the things that we've done for our stockpile or prepping pile this week was to can roast beef. Now we consider this to be a wonderful fast food item because you can open up that jar. Kevin's nodding right behind the camera here. You can open up that jar and within 5 minutes have a meal put together, or I can use this beef to add to a pot of vegetable soup, or and you don't have to thaw it out. It's already ready to go. We can make beef and gravy, beef over mashed potatoes or rice or something like that. So we love having jars of roast beef. But recently the roast beef, even on the sale flyers, has been so expensive. It's out of my acceptable range of what I will pay for something. So a week ago they had it on sale and it was a good cut, and so I bought enough of them. I was hoping to make a full canner of roast beef, and it turned out that I priced it up or sized it up quite well. We were able to get 9 jars of roast beef. Out of that, we did a dry pack process so that you just cube up the roast beef. Thank you, Kevin, for cutting up all of that beef and all the time that took. And so we just cram it into the jars tightly. You don't add water. I did add a little bit of salt this time. It makes its own broth, and some of the fat will rise to the top, but that's okay. So now that these are done, we can wash the jars, take these lids off, and label them and put them away. This is 9 jars. My canner officially holds 10, but several of these are wide mouth, and when I use wide mouth jars, for some reason I can't get the full 10 jars. So we have 9, and then we ended up with a roast that we didn't cut up, several pounds that we can use for a meal some other time, and it's in the freezer. So this is a wonderful thing that we did. And to be honest, I did not count this in my $20 a week budget, because this is something that will take us on through the rest of the year for several months to make meals out of this. So I'm curious, what have you been cooking this week? What have you found in your stockpile? What have you found that you are running low on? And what kind of ideas have you come up with? So we really need to share with each other what we cook, what we store, what we're running short of already, and those kinds of things, so that we can prep for the future in case we need these items in the future. Thank you for joining us today. I hope this gave you some ideas of things that you could cook, how you can use up your stockpile, your pantry foods, and that you will enjoy continuing this challenge in the month of January. Until next time, thank you for joining us on Hideaway Homestead.